Okay. Hello, everybody. Usually this is that WNBA podcast, but today I wanted to reflect on something different. A lot of you might know that I'm a huge Dallas Mavericks supporter, a huge Luka Doncic supporter, and while I've mentioned that in the past, um, that hasn't really been the point of this show. I know I haven't been around for a little while, but the WNBA has been out of action for a while. It's coming back soon, and I'll do more episodes talking about the upcoming draft, the WNBA, and everything that happened in college basketball. A lot of things to be excited about, but with life being so busy lately, I've kind of had to put this on the back burner. But this episode today, you can see that it's just my name there. That this is not attached to my WNBA podcast, although it will come out on that channel. This is specifically a podcast around the return of Luka back home to Dallas. Now, this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while, and I don't really know, or I didn't know, really how to talk about it. And I wrote the letter that you can see on your screen when the trade happened. In response to the letter that Luka wrote to Dallas, titled "Dear Dallas." Now, obviously, I'm not a media personality. I have no connections. I don't know how I would go about, getting Luka to see this message, like other people have seen or have been able to do in the past, whether that's a friend of ours in the Luka or Mavs community in Luka Doncic, who follows all of Luka's shoes, whether they're shoe swaps, shoe stats, new shoes by Luka that come out, all that sort of stuff. Whether it's other media outlets or other members of the kind of Mavs Twitter community. I don't know how to go about that. And I've emailed a couple of people on extremely late notice. And obviously, I know it's going to be extremely difficult for Luka to see this. And I'm sure he knows how us Mavs fans feel. He's spoken a little bit already about what his return tomorrow is going to mean to him, what he expects. And really, he doesn't know. I don't know. I'm not in the States. I'm an Australian fan. I'd love to be there. But none of us really know. I think we know from what he said and from what we think he's going to be extremely emotional. I think the fans are going to really embrace him and almost make it a Lakers home game sort of atmosphere tomorrow with the support for Luka. I don't know if it's all going to be happy in terms of the response to Luka being there, if there's going to be some protests or a chance against Nico and the Mavs front office. But all I know is I want to focus this episode on Luka. It's not going to be extremely long. It's coming from the heart. It hasn't been planned. It's just kind of something I just want to get off my chest. I've talked to friends about it. I've talked to people about it in my life that, follow basketball. But it's really extremely hard to explain what something like this means to an individual when other people aren't part or don't know what it feels like to be so involved in and so passionate about something like a sport or a sports person. And I think a lot of people think that when you get this nitty-gritty into a subject, particularly a person, that it kind of gets to a level of obsession. And I don't think that's particularly true. I think that's a bad way to look at it. And for some people, I'm sure it does. But I think for most people, especially when it comes to the sports world, it has an unexplained impact on people. We've done studies, even in the scientific world, so I'm a scientist by trade. that tell us that following a sports team is really a bad lifestyle choice, because the lows you get from your team losing are worse than the highs you get from your team winning. And essentially, in most sports, unless in that one particular year you follow one of however many teams win a sports league around the world that year, you're going to be disappointed because you end up being a loser, and you're not going to be happy. And some of us are more invested than others. But I think where this comes from is that for a lot of people that follow sports or follow particular players, it's been something you've grown up with, something you've been attached to for 20, 30 years, your whole life, something that might be handed down through generations, okay? Something that kind of almost means as much to some people as family. And I know that sounds weird to people that don't follow sport. I know that might be a foreign concept, but if you think of something that you're deeply passionate about, and something I don't like is people making fun of other people's passions. Only because you don't understand it doesn't give you the right to talk negatively about it, because I guarantee you have a passion that I might not understand, or that someone else might not understand. And I think for me in particular, while I haven't followed the Dallas Mavericks since I was, say, 4 years old, like I have with some other sports teams, I grew up with soccer. I was German born, much like Luka, European born, soccer fanatic, played soccer since I was 3, 4 years old. Basketball came to me a little later. And I'm just giving you this background because I think it's important for this story and what I'm going to say about Luka. And you can read the letter while I'm talking. I will talk through it. But basketball came a little later, and everyone in Germany knows who Dirk Nowitzki is. Dirk Nowitzki is a German legend. He grew up not far from where I was born. He kind of showed, I know this is kind of particularly evident in the NBA, but he kind of showed that European people, European sports people, could mix it with the rest of the world in different sports apart from soccer. We all know that soccer and some European sports, we're great at. But even then, soccer being, coming from England and that sort of thing, even then we know that Brazil has won the most World Cups, okay? And South America is very good at playing soccer or football, whatever you want to call it. And the NBA belonged to American players. And I think what Dirk showed was that you can convince people, you could show people that heart, that loyalty, that hard work could matter, that it could make a difference. But not only that your achievements mattered, but your feelings, the way you carried yourself, the way you looked after a community. I mean, none of us can claim, in the wider Dallas community, whether you live there or you're fans from overseas, to know Dirk, let's say intimately, or to be best friends. But you know that if you wanted to talk to Dirk and tell him how you felt about what he's achieved and what he's done for you as a fan, things you learned from him maybe growing up, because people think that kind of sports people or superstars, whatever they might be, just play sport. You just watch them to play sport. If they're a hero, they're a sports hero because you like watching them play soccer. Maybe celebrities. You think, wow, they're only good at acting, they're only good at singing. But most people follow people they like, not because just the product they produce, but because of the way they handle themselves. We all know that they made a lot of money, and that's kind of separates people from them in a way. But if you take that out of it, because that's something we can't control, they're still regular people. And the way they handle themselves is important. I know you can say, hey, it's easy to handle yourself that way if you've got millions of dollars. They should always be nice. They're happy. They are still regular people. And I'm starting off with Dirk because Dirk handled himself in a way that engaged the wider Dallas community. He was loyal and the team was loyal to him. The franchise was loyal to him. He was loyal to the city. And I think that's something we miss nowadays. I know the NBA is a business. I know everywhere is got business aspects to it, and people can do what they like. I mean, I can sit here and do a podcast, even if it doesn't make money, even if it's not popular. But I can talk to a camera and tell you what I think about a certain subject, and that's more prevalent than ever. But something we're missing is compassion, loyalty, and that's, I guess, where I want to move on to Luka. So I grew up watching the Mavs from a certain age. It was hard for me to watch back then. I was a kid. It's not as prevalent as it is now, especially in other countries outside the US. But I knew Dirk. I saw the championship run. I watched it back on DVD. I have a ton of memorabilia. I've never met Dirk. I wish I could. To tell him how much he meant to me as another German, as another Dallas Mavericks fan, as someone that's passionate about the team and what he's kind of meant to me. But for me then to move on from Dirk, and I think most sports fans find that when they're young, you look up to these heroes, to these idols, and eventually they move on. They retire, maybe they change clubs. And it's hard to find that again because as we get older, that curiosity, that willingness to love, to be passionate and maybe get hurt on the other end falls off with all the other things happening in life, which I think is natural as you get older. But you kind of lose those idols. And it's hard to hold on to a young person and move on and recreate that feeling and those times together, even just watching them through a TV screen. With social media nowadays, it's obviously a little bit better, but I think what I'm trying to say there is that for Luka and myself, for example, he's only a few months older than I am. And in one way, it's weird to look at that because you think, geez, I think we could be great friends. You know, enjoying soccer, enjoying Europe, enjoying games, basketball, the same interests. And obviously that's not something that'll ever materialize. I'm in no way delusional here, but you think, geez, we could have been great friends. And in another way, you look at it and you go, geez, this man is the same age as I am, but he's making 300 million over a 5-year span, and he's 6 inches taller and is one of the best basketball players on this planet, one of the best basketball players we've ever seen. He's relatable because he's, let's say, not the quickest, not the most athletic. He enjoys a beer like most of us do if we're not playing elite sport. He loves dogs the same as a lot of people do. He has a beautiful fiance, a beautiful life and family. And both those things kind of contradicted each other. But I was young enough when he came in the league just to worry about the basketball aspect of it. And I'm going to be honest, when we drafted for Luka, I watched Locked On Mavs. I'm a big fan. I watch their show every day, even though I've tampered off on my Mavs fandom recently. I didn't know who Luka was at the time. I knew he was this phenomenon, but we know what all the big media people said about him at the time, and it was hard not to. But I think from that first rookie year, and I have his Rookie of the Year jersey, I have a ton of memorabilia. I have his first All-Star jersey. I have the finals hat from last year that I'm wearing to reminisce on the good times. And things like this and feelings and players like him come around once in a millennium. Franchises, and I'm echoing here what Locked On Mavs have said, and Isaac and Nick have said a million times. I don't want to steal from them, of course, but I just want to say that they have, obviously made it clear in the past. Franchises look for 20, 30 years to find someone half as good as Luka. And he took the city by storm. He gave us that loyalty that we had with Dirk. We got so lucky. Even though he's quiet, English is not his first language, same as Dirk's wasn't at the time. He fell in love in the city, and the city fell in love with him. We fell in love with him. We made him a Texan. We went through great times, through bad times. People talked about the conditioning. We stuck by him through his flaws. Everybody has flaws. Dirk was not perfect. We forget that. Dirk wasn't perfect. But we loved him, and we wanted to get there with him. And winning a title, especially for a franchise like us, is close to impossible. Things have to go perfectly for 82 games plus the playoffs. Dirk's run that year was one of the hardest runs in NBA history, and he did it. And we wanted to get there with Luka. We watched him every day. We watched him grow up. And this is the thing, I watched him grow up with me. We were the same age. We grew up together. I could relate to him. In a way, I almost couldn't do Dirk, and I love Dirk with all my heart. He's my favorite player of all time. But with the age difference, it was harder to relate. Okay. And obviously, with Luka being the same age, loving the same things, it was easy. It was easy to go that direction. And for 7 years, we went through the highs and lows, and we thought we'd finally gotten there. We got the team around him. We had another superstar that wanted to be here. We got another superstar and another star, one of the best shooters of all time, who said, I want to be in Dallas because of this man. Something that we've never had. People don't go, I want to go to Dallas. Why that is, we've always tried to figure out as fans. We're not in the inter sanctum, but we can guess. And we finally had it. We said we were that piece away. And then that soul, that heart gets ripped away on a random Sunday afternoon here in Australia. And it was such a weird feeling, and I'm not going to lie to you. I got very emotional. I am still emotional. I'm going to be very sad tomorrow when I see this game or parts of it early in the morning, our time. And I still don't know how my passion for the team is going to come back in the same way, because I'll always be a Mavs fan. Let's make that clear. I'm not going anywhere. But I will also always be a Luka fan. I don't like the Lakers, but Luka deserves everything that he could have had with us. He deserves championships. He deserves MVPs. And I think he'll win it all. And when he does, he will be forever be known as a Laker and not a Mav. He didn't want to go anywhere. He was loyal to the city like Dirk was before him. And that all, ironically, faded away. And I'm sitting here doing this podcast and, I've said all these things and it's hard to make these words fit together and then make it kind of flow in a logical way. But I do want to read the letter on your screen, because to me, when I wrote this letter, and it's not perfect, okay, I'm not a reporter, but I just wanted it to hit the mark and get something out on paper, which people don't often do anymore. If anyone can, not this podcast, not these clips, not me talking about it, but if anyone can get this letter to Luka or his team, it'd be amazing. Not for a selfish reason on my behalf, but I just really want him to know what he means to us. I know he's seen some of the fan reaction. I'm sure he has, and I'm sure tomorrow will be emotional, and I'm sure he'll see the reception that he gets. But I think on a personal level of someone telling him in written form what he meant to us and what he means to the city, and that we're always going to be there, and to not forget, but to remember that what happened here in Dallas wasn't on behalf of us and the wider community and fan base, I think is really important. And if he can see it, that'd be great. I know he probably won't, but there's some other letters like this out here. And as long as he kind of feels that, I think that's important. And he sees that, because I can't imagine it was easy for him. I know he's talked about it a little bit. And, again, I know people can say, hey, he makes millions of dollars. Why should he be sad that he's gone to LA and he's going to be in palm trees and beautiful weather and beachside with $1 million house and, all these beautiful things. But he got uprooted, no fault of his own. He loved the city. He loved the fans. He loved playing basketball in Dallas. And, I hope to meet him one day. I'd love to, whether it's here at the 2032 Olympics, if he's still playing for Slovenia by then, if they qualify. I'd love to watch him play. Maybe I can watch him before then. But, it's expensive and hard for me to get over there. And I never got to see Dirk. But look, to kind of finish this episode off, I want to read this letter in my voice, just to kind of reiterate what I've said, and to also give a voice to these words, to kind of get this off my chest again before we watch Luka play the Mavericks and the Lakers jersey tomorrow. And look, if you can share, if anyone sees this, if you can share the letter or any part of this episode, in the hopes that him or his team may see the love us fans felt for him, then that would be very important to me. And as a side note, I want to say that hopefully, Kyrie stays, because the Mavs have really grown. Mavs fans have really grown to love him. And if if he goes, and as much as we're appreciative of AD, and I hope he also feels the love, hopefully Kyrie will stay and yeah, that could really break the city and the Mavs fan base if Kyrie were to go. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully Paige Becker's taken it back to the WNBA. Will get drafted by the Wings, and we'll have another generational talent, at least in the city. Someone that I'll love to follow and I can report on for you guys. But now let's get into the letter. Fully decked out in Dallas and Luka gear here. And I'll just read it, I guess, in the way I imagined it when I penned it. Yeah. So, dear Luka, this isn't an easy letter to write. This is written from the heart, from the soul, on behalf of Mavericks fans that have lost a part of themselves in you. I hope you see this, but if you don't, it doesn't matter, of course. Sometimes to grieve, we have to first speak out to someone, something, anything. In the case of this podcast here, and this is my tribute, and hopefully our tribute to you. 7 years, you gave your all. You gave your blood, sweat, and tears, physically, emotionally, and literally. We saw you bleed. We saw you fight through all those injuries. You played with those injuries, and you took our team to heights that at times it didn't belong. You gave us game winners, dunks, step backs, 70-point games, finals runs, but most of all, and most importantly, you gave us love, compassion, energy, and loyalty. This franchise was built of loyalty, something that we seem to have forgotten. I think I speak for the majority that we felt so lucky to have drafted such an amazing future Hall of Famer, someone to take that mantle from Dirk. That's not something that comes easily, and more importantly, we were lucky to have drafted such an incredible young man. Your influence on the Dallas community and all its fans around the world may be your greatest legacy. Fans around the world, just like myself, all over the globe, in the far corners of Australia or wherever you may be. Speaking on a personal note, though, for someone that came from humble beginnings in Germany and also moved to a great new country in Australia at such a young age, I always felt that I could connect to you in a way that I couldn't with other players, other stars, even other people. You made me feel as though I knew what it was like to sit in that arena, hear the sounds of sneakers on the hardwood, smell the confetti at the end of a finals run, like I watched Dirk do as a child. You made me believe I could make an impact. Well, I never got to see you live in a Mavs stadium. Well, I never got to see Dirk live. You made it feel as though I was right there with you on that court. I still hope that I might get to realize that dream in whatever uniform that may be. I think that whether someone is an MFFL like me, but also a Luka fan, a fan from, I'm going to butcher it, Ljubljana, following his hometown hero, or simply just a Luka fan in general, I can say that with confidence that we will keep watching you. We will all root for you, and we will all be there with you when you torch our franchise tomorrow. When you lift those MVP trophies and championships, that I wish you all the best in receiving soon in the near future. We thought, like you, I think that you would be a Mav for life. We wanted more than anything for you to bring us a championship. You were Dallas, you are Dallas, and you will always be the heart of Dallas, Texas, and it won't be the same without you. Your number will, and I'm sure of it, and it better be, hanging in the rafters here. And maybe one day, if you wish, the basketball gods will bring us back together. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts as an MFFL, and we all remember that loyalty never fades away. And I think with that, we'll wrap up this episode. I know it's a down one. I know it's not WNBA related. And I know that maybe very few fans, maybe very few people will see it. If you do, I hope you enjoyed this little look back on Luka and what he meant to me. My name is Jan Frum, host of that WNBA podcast. And yeah, I hope you get to watch the Dallas Mavericks versus Luka and the Lakers tomorrow. And I will be back with you soon when the WNBA kicks off again. See you later. Bye.